down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down. Chop it down, you gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Damn,
watching.
Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? What it do? How y'all feeling tonight? Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast, provided to you by 214 Media. You know who I am. I am your host, Molly Maul, Coach Maul, Hen Dog Maul, Tequila Maul. Depends on the night, depends on the flavor, depends on the mood that I'm in. The fellas are on their way. And here's the thing. Football's on tonight, right? Matter of fact, I'm sorry. Let me get the administrative items out of the way. Like, subscribe, comment if you're checking in after the show. Check out the All 32 side of Trap or Dive. Had a show last night, premiered that. Funny top 5 power rankings of the NFL. Cincinnati's in my top 5. Philly's in my top 5. Who was my 15? Tampa Bay. No Dallas. No Eagles. No Giants. Couple other things. Anyway, top 5 power rankings. Funny episode. Get some love to the All 32 side, man. Still doing good things over there. Plenty of entertainment. And another thing, I have an interview on the way. Now, again, I am not putting my foot in my mouth. I will not tell you all who the player is. But it isn't scheduled, or we're trying to schedule it right now. Looking forward to getting that done if we can dot the I's and cross the T's on that situation. So next week, good things coming for Hogs Haven and Trap or Dive. I'll try to mix this one up so everybody can be a part of that. So all that good stuff. Let me go ahead and get the good man. Hold on, who we got in here? The All 32 ENT show. What's going on, Hawk? Appreciate you checking in, big dog. How was your day? Another administrative item. My bad. Jacob Westerndorf of Packer Report 66 is going to check in and give us the details of the Green Bay Packers, man. We're going to figure out what we got to worry about and what the Packers have to worry about, at least when they take on the Commanders as well. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. Let me get my guy. Boom. There we go. Hey, what's going on, AJ? How you feeling, bro?
Oh man, it's been a crazy week, but
just about to bring up your tweet. I literally just saw your tweet about Chloe Bailey, bro.
Yeah, man, it's been a crazy week, but shit ain't going right. We gonna keep pushing.
The event itself got canceled, or like she had to back up?
Yeah, so she was just showing love off the strength of a relationship I got with her and her management. But told you about the bowling event on Thursday, so we decided after the first one to wait until Howard Homecoming week. Today's Howard Homecoming week, so she's performing tomorrow at Yard Fest.
Yeah, so that's tomorrow. Damn.
Yeah, so we got a whole bunch of people in town, entertainer-wise. So I was gonna have her pull up, kick back, relax, bowl with everybody. But unfortunately, Bolero didn't tell me that they booked out tonight for a corporate event, so can't even do the function. It's all good, man.
Yeah, man. So I take it you finna be in the city this weekend for sure.
I don't know.
You ain't gotta lie. I know. AJ,
a lot of people hitting me up like, "Hey, what you got going on?" Then the Packers playing this weekend too, so you already know people trying to mooch off and get some tickets. So I want to say some of even Ben's friends from Montreal are supposed to be in town too. So Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
gonna say you
I'll
got
probably
busy sleep.
be outside depending on how the weather holds up. I mean, you can't go wrong with having
Wait, let me see.
homecoming.
Yeah, I'm about to say I gotta pop out Saturday. Can't do Friday, but I'm about to pop out Saturday. I'm checking in with everybody. I know my boy AK got a party or a B-Day, so he finna be in the city. So I'm trying to tap in with a whole bunch of people for real
Yeah,
before I gotta step out to Baltimore at night.
let me know. Let me know. I think my bad. Probably make some moves in the daytime.
All right, yeah, that's a bet. We could lock in on Saturday. Monty, what's going on? Magic, what's going on, fellas? Again, like you said, just checking in. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Jacob Westerndorf, Packer Report 66 is going to check in. Shortly. We're going to go ahead and chop it up about the Packers with him for a bit and see what is going on with that side of the matchup. So, AJ, it's been like you said, it's been a long week for yourself from a personal / business standpoint. Same thing for me. It's been a long day for sure. That's for sure. But you know, we're here to talk some Washington, man. And when you look at this matchup, you know, it's been a crazy week, obviously, as well with the quarterback conversations. I mean, understanding that there is no more Carson Wentz for the foreseeable future. With Taylor Heinicke in the matchup against the Green Bay Packers, as we'll do, we'll always start off. Well, first off, I think the injuries is going to be interesting, but I want to get your overall thoughts while I bring the injuries up. Just your macro perspective of this matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Green Bay Packers are definitely trying to figure it all out offensively after losing such an elite talent in Davante Adams and really not having anyone that has truly been able to step in even halfway. Of course, they didn't expect anyone to step in 100%, but the additions of Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins is not panning out to even make an equivalent of half of what Davante Adams brought to the team and the structure. But overall, I feel like defensively they're having some struggles too, but it probably plays hand in hand with the offense. But you can never sleep on a team that got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, point blank, period. That's the thing. And, you know, one of his strengths that he takes advantage of is mismatches and reading defenses and substitutions, and that's where Washington defense struggles big time. So I still look forward to him being able to be productive against them on Sunday, whereas with Washington, really don't know what you're going to get from them every week. It's a very inconsistent team, inconsistent football. Now you add in Taylor Heinicke back into the mix. You don't know what you're going to get from Scott Turner and Taylor Heinicke. So, yeah, it's a wild card game. I didn't expect Green Bay to lose to the Jets last week. But at the same token, Robert Saleh is in his third year, right? I want to say so.
Third or second. Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, he's showing improvement with that team. They're buying into the system. They have a solid defensive front with Quinnen Williams. You know, maybe Washington can make some waves with their defensive front, but I still don't believe overall Washington can win this game because of the major difference in who's the starting quarterback and who's the starting quarterback for Washington. But you know, I don't think it's going to be a blowout like maybe we projected prior to, you know, being able to see these last few weeks of Green Bay Packers playing football.
So I want to stick on Green Bay for a second, but obviously Dre just checked in. We got to check in on our good guy, Dre, man. How you feeling tonight, big dog? Everything good with you?
I'm always good on a Thursday. Like I said, it's the weekend. Shit, I told you Thursdays are my Fridays, so I'm already in weekend mode.
Yeah, man. Well, talk to me, man. Now? If you don't want to jinx yourself, you know I respect superstitions, but what you got tonight? You want to talk about it, or you locked in?
You know, I actually didn't even put nothing on tonight's game. I think I'm just waiting for the weekend. Yeah, I'm waiting for the weekend. I'm gonna put some action.
Give me the under. I got the under tonight.
All right, well, good luck on that. Rooting for you,
man. I don't trust New Orleans, bro. And for all it's worth, like with D-Hop coming back, I don't think they're about to blow the doors off anybody, man. That offense and Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, man, they on some can't get right stuff, bro. So I don't know. We're gonna see. Obviously, like I don't ever win the overs, but I always win the unders. So we're gonna figure something out. Okay, so we were just getting our overall thoughts and Dre, after I speak, we can just get your thoughts as well, your overall thoughts on the matchup. But on the Green Bay topic, AJ, like the biggest thing that I noticed, I watched a game and a half, primarily the game against the Jets because that was the last opponent. But these guys, they really it's really nothing out there. Like I wonder how bad Aaron Rodgers is missing Davante Adams, because at some point there's always been occasions where even Jordan Nelson, he was a really good receiver in Green Bay, undeniably good. Like you can't deny how good he was in Green Bay. He was a playmaker. He can take something 70 yards. He can take something 90 yards. He can beat you in the red zone. He was a third down guy. And when he went to Oakland, he was still okay. But it wasn't like, I mean, he left Oakland later in his career as well. But to my point, when Davante left, like he was still like that guy. He was still like in that elite category, and people considered him elite when he left Green Bay. And for him to transition and still do his thing in the Vegas team, you're seeing how good the Green Bay Packers really had it with him. And now they got these younger guys in here, man, and it's kind of crazy how you're seeing some of the drops go on. And if you talk to Green Bay guys, they're saying that the routes aren't really always run properly, whether it's depth or the actual route itself. And these guys are struggling, bro. And I guess it's really coming to a head early in the season that, you know, they really didn't adequately have a plan to replace Davante Adams. Those are my thoughts about, you know, Davante. But Dre, I want to get you the floor first, just to, if you have something to say about Davante, but also your overall thoughts on the matchup.
I mean, yeah, I'm still shocked that Green Bay let Davante go. Like that was crazy to me to see this offseason, especially when you knew you were bringing back Aaron Rodgers.
I was about to say, he just committed to coming back, and you trade Davante.
Right. I mean, because for me, I felt like Aaron Rodgers, especially how he's reacted over the last couple of years to some of their draft picks and offseason moves, he was pissed. And this is one of the reasons why his future with Green Bay was up in the air, because he was like, you all aren't giving me any weapons. Like when they drafted Jordan Love, I thought he was done once, you know, his contract was done. So you bring him back. I thought it was for certainty that they were bringing Davante back. So it shocked me to see them let him go. And then you got a couple of young guys now for Green Bay, you know, the rookie wide receivers, Romeo Doubs, who I really like.
Hey, Christian Watson, bro. I know his. Hey, I will never forget the conversation. Like that dude was in everybody's mentions on Twitter, bro. Like worried about the drops and exactly. In the first game, this man breaks somebody off. I think they said it was Patrick Peterson, bro. And what does he do? Like you did all that fighting on Twitter for that man to drop his first target. That would have been a touchdown.
And honestly, I haven't even really, since I remember that specific play with him. But I mean, I've talked to a couple of Packers fans. I know a couple of them that live in the area, and none of them seem to think he's done anything so far. They're like, man, this dude got to do something at some point. You know, Watson we're talking about. I mean, I know most of them like Romeo Doubs. I like him too. And, you know, they still have Allen Lazard. But like you said, it was just still shocking for me to see them let Davante Adams go. So I don't know.
Yeah. So what you think about this matchup, Jay? Overall, what's your perspective on these things?
And the funny thing, I mean, it's a winnable game. I mean, it's a winnable game for most teams in the league. And I hate saying that about our games, because I just feel like we are in no position to say any game is winnable, you know. But I mean, realistically, it is a winnable game. I mean, you saw Green Bay's performance the last couple of weeks. Actually, I was actually surprised the way the Jets went over there to their home and dominated them the way they did. And the way they dominated them was in the trenches. They dominated Green Bay with their defensive line. And you're looking at Washington's D-line, and they've actually been playing much better this season. I mean, Montez Sweat is having him a nice little stretch of games after we kind of criticized him and critiqued him earlier in the season. And then, you know, Duron and John Alley, you know what they're going to bring. So that Washington's defensive line is just as capable of doing to the Packers offensive line what the Jets did. Like, I mean, the Jets have, you know, a bunch of talent. You know, you have Quinnen Williams and guys like that on the defensive line, but Washington is just as talented, if not more talented up front. So that's where they can make this game winnable for the team. Now, offensively, you know, on the offensive side, that's to be determined. I do feel like they will be slightly better on offense this week with Taylor Heineke. And I mean, not to say that he's better than Carson, but he knows his offense a little bit better, and Taylor can move behind a bad offensive line.
Man,
So
Dre back on his bullshit. Oh my God.
See,
bro.
AJ don't want me to be real. AJ want me to say, man, fuck him. This team is ass. I mean, well,
I'm
we
about
are
to say
bad.
the
It's a bad
funny
team.
thing is I'm on Dre's side with this one. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
it,
just
it can't get no worse. Like, it's been
Right.
terrible, bro. It's been terrible. Like, I get back and forth to AJ, but yeah, I mean, it's really been. It's hard for me to sit here and say that it can get worse with Taylor, a guy who's actually
Right.
known the offense, and obviously
Right.
his given struggles. I think there's still ways that he can overcome it from a mobility standpoint. Like, he's an athlete. Like, he can overcome some of his flaws.
Exactly. Like, I'm not expecting them to go out there and start putting up 30 points in a game because they have Taylor Heineke at the helm. I'm not even honestly expecting them to put up 21 a game, but I do think they could put up more than 11, which is what they've been averaging for most of the damn season. Like, I mean, I think they can score 17 points with Taylor Heineke, you know, but it's ultimately going to come down in this game to how well Washington's defense stops Green Bay's offense, because that's the side where this game will be won if Washington is going to win the game.
Shout out to Magic. Magic. First off, Magic's hilarious. You know what's crazy, Magic? So Magic said I actually look like D-Hop. I chuckled, but in the same vein, it's crazy. Like, so many people say I look like so many different people with dreads. Like, I didn't got called Marshawn. I didn't got called Quavo. I didn't got called Takeoff. I didn't got called Offset.
It's Masego.
Right. Try growing up with curly hair. I was everybody with curly hair.
Right. It's ridiculous. Stay Golden on Twitch. What's going on, Stay Golden? Appreciate you checking in. Said, come on, Dre, you sipping that Kool-Aid again.
I ain't saying they're gonna win. I'm just saying they could be a little bit better with Heineke.
So what's the fear factor level when it comes to Aaron Rodgers? And I say this in the sense of, like, obviously, yes, we know he is a dog ass quarterback in the regular season. Playoffs has been a little shaky lately, but yes, we understand he is a dog ass quarterback in the regular season. And given that there's just the way things have been transpiring, like even the last time that not the last time, the time before last, I can't remember what year it was, but it was before the 2021 season. I think we beat the Alex Smith year. We beat them at home that year and they were struggling. I just think that these starts or like these spurts happen with Aaron Rodgers, like whether it's like they linger around or not, but like we catch Aaron Rodgers a couple times. We caught him a couple times, like when his team was struggling, and it's not necessarily just him. I'm just saying we caught his team when they were struggling. So like, where are you at with the threat factor or the fear factor with Aaron Rodgers? Like on a scale of 1 to 5, is this like a team where you're looking at the Green Bay Packers, where it's like Aaron Rodgers can put this team on his back at this point in time in his career and really will the Green Bay Packers to a win? Or is this something where it's like he's going to need some help from his teammates?
Well, because it's us and because it's Aaron Rodgers, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 5, it's a level 7 for me. I mean, because we're not we're just not the type of team that I can just go in confident and say, yeah, we're definitely going to be able to, contain Aaron Rodgers. I feel like, even though Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have had a tough couple of games, they can still go off on us. Like, we could be their get right game. We're usually people's get right games.
Last year,
so exactly. So, for me, like I said, that fear level is going to be really high with Aaron Rodgers because he's still a dangerous quarterback. No matter, he's up in age and he may have lost a couple of weapons, but I mean, this is still a guy that you have to take very seriously. You can't go into the game just very confident saying that we're going to go in and stop this guy.
AJ, well, matter of fact, I'm gonna go right quick because I do want to sit here and say, while I ask that question, I'm also at like a 5. I think that Aaron Rodgers, first off, Aaron Rodgers is still, like, for all his work, for all the struggles that he's having this year, whether it's through his performance, because he has had some bad throws where he's had time in the pocket. Like, that has been the case for him. He's been able to, find these clean pockets at time with an offensive line that's been struggling on several occasions, whether it's handling power rushers or handling line games. Like they've been struggling, but in the moments where he's had time, he's also, had bad passes. But my point is, for all of that being said, he's still completing 67% of his passes. He's still 1,400 yards on the season. He still has 9 touchdowns and 3 picks. Like he has a very good TD to INT ratio. Like he's a quarterback who's still overall efficient. Like that is what it is. And like my threat level, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 5 is at a 5 still. He's a guy who I think can really will his team on his back. And that's kind of the part where you can't really, like when you talk about teams like regular matchups, and Dre, you know this tenfold because you're a gambler. But when you have these teams and you see like a spread or you just see a matchup and you're like, all right, I understand why this team could win. I can outline all these things and reasons for why this one team can win. And it's a very logical response. And then I look over here and they got Aaron Rodgers. And that's where it stops. Like they got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And it don't matter how that defense is performing. It don't matter the weapons that he has around him. He's going to find a way to get things done. But I also think that there's something just to add to this conversation. Well, I do think the threat level for Aaron Rodgers and me is at a 5. I think that this is a game where the Green Bay Packers are going to try to get Aaron Rodgers and AJ Dillon involved big time. Aaron Jones, excuse me. He was a guy who I think last week was slightly under his averages in terms of touches per game. And as good as he is, as very good of a running back as he is, they're not going to let that happen 2 weeks in a row. So this is going to be a game where I think that Aaron Rodgers and AJ Dillon is going to have, I keep saying Aaron Rodgers, god damn, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon is going to have a very significant presence in their game plan.
Yeah, I mean, is AJ around?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm around. Yeah, my bad. I'm trying to cook at the same time, but yeah. I mean, like y'all said, the outlier is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, aside from everything else, I think they're still trying to get their pieces of the puzzle together. Like I said in the intro, I feel like Devontae Adams, not being on the roster has affected both sides of the ball because the offense isn't staying on the field long enough and the defense is having to play more, and they're getting exposed. What I seen the Jets do to them last week was really surprising because I don't look at the Jets as being, an explosive team, but they were able to make explosive plays on both sides of the ball. I feel like there's definitely some things that are interesting with Green Bay. I'm curious to see how they'll play defensively. I still like their front in Kenny Clark. I like Preston Smith against Washington's offensive line, and then Rashawn Gary, who doesn't get talked about a lot, but he's an elite athlete, player within this league. More people are going to become fans of him as time goes on. I actually think he's going into a contract year. Yeah, I think he's going into a contract year. So then you have another matchup that I'm looking forward to is Jair Alexander against Terry McLaurin. That's where, I guess both of you guys agree that Taylor Heineke may look better in this offense. I'm still on the boat. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I guess you guys are going to have to sell me a little bit more in this conversation.
So 2 things, because I want to make sure we get this question in just because we have around 5 minutes left until Jacob is supposed to be checking in. Stay Golden asked this on Twitch side. First off, Rich, what's going on? Said Evening Trappers are in the building. That's funny. Yes, the Evening Trappers are in the building, big dog. Golden asked, I may have missed this, but how does a win change the POV of this team? And I'll give the floor. I'll actually kick this one off, and I'll be brief. And I hate to be blunt, Golden, but I'll try to answer your question. It's kind of hard put it this way. If you're like fully committed onto this season and obviously, you want this season to mean something. And I think everybody at the bottom or the core of this the issues that Washington has going on, they want success. They want success every single game. They want success every single season. But I don't know to what degree it'll change like the perspective of this team. Like, yes, in context wise, we know that Green Bay is struggling right now. So you have several different things that's going on with the Packers, and then you have some things going on with Washington. Now, it may be the case that if Washington wins in a convincing way, in a stylish way, that you can open your eyes a little bit and be like, all right, well, maybe we got something on here with, you know, the new cast surrounding Taylor Heineke, the issues that he like the cast that he didn't have last year, or additions to the cast that he didn't have last year. Who knows? But outside of that, you know, a lot of people are really saying that this could be a close game for Washington, given the strengths that Washington have on a defensive side of the standpoint, and things like that. So, yeah, how does a win change the perspective of this team, fellas? Get a floor to y'all, and we can get Jacob on.
Yeah, again, you're right, Jamal, in the fact that context matters here, regarding how they win. I mean, we just seen the last week, like winning against the Bears. Like, if you asked us before the game, does, you know, POV change if they beat the Bears? Likely answer is probably no, but you're probably saying it depends on how they win. And that was one of the most disappointing or terrible wins you will watch, because both teams were just terrible last week. So if you go out and let's say you beat Green Bay like you did Chicago this week, where it just basically both teams are playing a game of, I don't want it, you take it here, you take it. That was the Washington-Chicago game. So if Washington and Green Bay play that sort of game, and Washington just so happens to end up on top, especially after Green Bay just lost a couple of games in a row, they're looking bad. I don't think anyone feels good after that game either. Even, you know, you're sitting at 3-4 after that game, you win, and you look bad, and you just so happen to be given the game, and you win the game. I don't think anyone's going to come out of that game confident going into, you know, the next few slate of games or whatever, or changing their mind about how this team is. But however, if you go in there and you kind of win convincingly, which is kind of hard for me to see, it's hard for me to ever see this team winning convincingly or dominating. But if they go in there and they win convincingly a solid game, then I think that some people will start to look at it and say, okay, well, maybe this team might be getting better. Maybe they're going on a run. But most of us will probably still approach it with like cautious optimism, if anything. If you're optimistic at all, it's going to be very cautiously optimistic. So I think that's the only way you can change the POV for the fan base right now, is win convincingly. And even then, I don't think you're going to come out like overly optimistic. You're going to be cautious with this team.
Man, POV, this team ain't winning a damn game for the rest of the year. The only game they might possibly win is Houston. Other than that, they're going to lose to everybody else on the schedule. And the last thing you want this team to do is win. You want this team to lose as much as possible and get the best draft pick they can. Because I think right now they sit at 11th overall, which is not – I mean, you could get a player there, but you'd rather be in the top 3. If you're going to suck. You feel me?
That's what Montel be saying, yo. He's like, man, I hate how we teeter on the brink of trying to be good, man. If we're gonna lose, we need to lose. I'm trying to agree. We need to break the huddle. 1, 2, 3, let's lose.
Halfway lose. Yeah, don't halfway lose to where you picking 15th, 13th. Like, nah, lose all the damn way. You feel me? Like a couple years ago, if they lost all the damn way, they would have been able to pick. If they had lost maybe 1 or 2 more games, they would have been able to pick Micah Parsons. Just really put that in perspective, because I knew he was going to drop in the draft process because people were concerned about his off-the-field behavior. So that man went from being a top 3, top 5 pick to dropping all the way to 10th or 11th for the Cowboys. I think
our headache. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it was obvious his talent, but yeah, at this point, the last thing you need to be worried about is the point of view of this team wins. They're not going to win. It's not happening.
Never. Don't say it ain't gonna happen.
Put your money up there, Mo.
You talking about against the Packers?
Against that bad man.
Let's get to the injury report and get Jacob on, because I'm ducking this. I'm ducking that smoke. John Bates. I'm gonna list all the DNPs on Thursday. John Bates, De'Ami Brown, Tariq Castro Fields, William Jackson III, Logan Thomas, Carson Wentz, for the obvious reason, Carson Wentz, and then Jonathan Williams. They're all DNPs for Wednesday and Thursday. But we did have Sam Cosmi limited. Percy Butler was in full. Then you had Jahan Dotson, who was limited, and obviously that injury report came out probably before he tweaked his hamstring once again. So that is something to monitor. Don't look good based on the video and the reports. So we'll figure that one out. And on the Packers side, Randall Cobb is DNP, and I know he's going to be out for a couple weeks due to I think a hamstring or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe an ankle. And then we have Jake Hansen, Mercedes Lewis, Christian Watson, all DNPs for them. Left tackle David Bakhtiari, guard / tackle Elgin Jenkins, limited, and then Rashad Gary, Aaron Rodgers, both full. Let's go ahead and get the good man, Jacob. And let me change the screen right quick. Boom, boom, and boom. There we go. And joining us right now is Jacob Westendorf. Jacob, as I said earlier, covers the Green Bay Packers for Packer Report 66. Welcome to the Tribe or Die podcast, boss man. And I guess to kick things off, Jacob, we were talking about Green Bay. And we had our theories and just figured some things about what this situation, this new situation for the Packers are post Davante Adams, and a large part of our conversation when it came to that offensive side of the football stemmed from the move, or even the defensive side of the football as well, as AJ discussed, stems from the absence of Davante Adams. I guess I'll just ask you, what is like the biggest point of frustration or confusion to the Packers start of the season?
Yeah, Adams is the big storyline, and understandably so. He was the best receiver in football when he got traded. I still think that he is. Obviously, we can revisit that at the end of the season. But, for Green Bay, the receivers, there are issues. I mean, they have replacement level players or rookies as their primary starters. And when you go from Davante Adams, who's obviously one of the really best players in the league, and you've got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is one of the top deep threats in the NFL, even if he's not like a great consistent player, that speed he has plays a role, and they haven't had that either. But for all the talk about the receivers, the biggest issue with the Packers, they can't block anybody. And this is a group that was supposed to be like last year. It didn't matter that much who they put in front of Aaron Rodgers. They made it work. Like Yosh Nijman, I remember, made his first career start at left tackle on Sunday Night Football against Nick Bosa. And they went into that game against San Francisco in week 3. And I was like, this guy's going to eat the quarterback because Nijman's never played before. And there's just so many different things going on now with that. And Bosa was relatively quiet for his standards. And the Packers scored 30 points and won on a Mason Crosby walk-off field goal. This year, they have David Bakhtiari back. He's working his way back. He's been relatively solid. John Runyon Jr. is coming off the worst game of his NFL career this past Sunday against the Jets. Josh Myers is a second-year player, but he's basically like a rookie. He's only played like 9 games in his NFL career because he's missed a bunch of time with injuries last year. Elgton Jenkins is coming back from a knee injury and may not be a tackle anyways, but they're asking him to play right tackle now. And Royce Newman has been the worst offensive lineman on the team and one of the worst offensive linemen.
That was the first person I saw when I was watching. I was like, this is the guy that they need to target him.
It's, oh my God. There's a play last week where like I at a much, 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 much smaller level, but I used to play the offensive line. And I always said like my number one goal was don't end up on Deadspin or, the not top tens or whatever for whatever they have. Well, there's a play where like Newman literally like is catching himself falling back. And Quentin Williams is a man's man, certainly. But that is a bad look for a guy who's a second-year player. And it happens like more than once a game. And you're right. When you're talking about targets, I promise you Coach Rivera, and Coach Rivera is really smart. Got a lot of respect for him for how long he's been in this game and had to go against him a bunch here in Green Bay when he was in Chicago for as long as he was, one of the better defenses in football when he was out there. I promise you, he did the same thing you did. He circled number 70 and said, if he's in the lineup, and he might not be, but if he's in the lineup, we're attacking his ass and with a vengeance. And with that group that you guys have, you guys were talking about if they had lost another game here or there, they could have gotten Micah Parsons. And I just went like, whoa, can you imagine Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne and Montez Sweat with Chase Young and then Micah Parsons? Like they might already be the best front four just individually in football with just those 4 guys. But then you add Micah to that, that'd be incredible. But they have a really good group in their own right. And that's Green Bay's biggest problem. Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. Doesn't matter how good your receivers are. We all watched the Super Bowl. What was that, 2 years ago now with Patrick Mahomes against Tampa Bay? They couldn't block Tampa Bay. Kansas City couldn't block Tampa Bay. So it didn't matter. Last year, when it came down to it, Cincinnati couldn't block the Rams, and that's why they lost. Doesn't matter how many receivers and fantasy football players you have. You can't block, you don't win.
Hey, Maul, if you don't mind, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, jump in.
'Cause
Y'all know y'all supposed to jump in anyway.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Jacob, for joining us. And you just broke down number 70 for the Packers on the offensive line. Well, Washington has about 5 of number 70s on their offensive line. So, so you guys are going to have a field day with Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, and Gary on the other side. But overall, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about Joe Barry and his defensive play calling and scheme this year? Has it been masked by the great offensive play from Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams over the years that put them in, significant abilities to have leads? Or is it just a personnel issue? Because it seems like you guys have better linebackers this go around with Devontae Campbell stepping up after being a free agent pickup last year. You have players in your secondary in Amos, Savage, Stokes, and Alexander, and like I said, you have Kenny Clark, you have the Preston Smiths and Gary, minus losing to Darius Smith. But are you really a fan of Joe Barry play calling and his scheme? As Washington fans have dealt with Joe Barry hands-on and his poor defensive scheme here. But a lot of people have elevated him since his departure from the Rams and now being with the Packers.
Yeah, there's some stuff that are issues schematically. They've had some issues. The biggest issue that Green Bay has is they want to play these light boxes when other teams are trying to run the football. And Green Bay doesn't have a passable run defense. Some of the issues that I think more of the issues Green Bay has is everybody was touting up this, and I use the word everybody loosely, but this Packers defense is like, oh, they were so good last year. And, this year they add Quay Walker, they kept everybody and they've got all these guys coming back. And it was like, guys, they weren't that good last year. They finished 22nd in Football Outsiders DVOA on the defensive side of the ball. They had a really good finish to the season. And I don't know how you guys feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, but I always say he's a tackling dummy playing quarterback for San Francisco. So holding him to I think they won 13-10 and they didn't score a touchdown. Cool. That's a good performance, but that's still Jimmy Garoppolo. And there were some really bad games the Packers had down the stretch last year on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Justin Fields, that Bears offense put up a lot of points against them. That's not exactly a potent offense. You guys just saw them on Thursday night. It was worse last year than it was this year. So try and figure that out for me. You've got Baker Mayfield moving the ball up and down the field. He threw 4 interceptions against Green Bay's defense last year on Christmas Day, and the Packers won by 2. That is incredible to me that is even a possibility. So I never really bought the hype about this Packers defense. One of the reasons basically, so my expectations to start the year was I picked them to win 11 games, win the division, because I didn't think that highly of anyone else in the division. And I was like, and at some point, they still have Aaron Rodgers, they're going to figure out something on the offensive side of the ball. But this whole idea that they were going to be able to win with defense and run the football on offense, it was just that. Number one, that's not how you win in 2022. You can scrape your way to 10-7 and try and win that way. I compare them to the Rex Ryan New York Jets. That's what those teams typically end up looking like when you can't score efficiently on offense the way Green Bay has the last couple of years. And their defense, the Packers haven't had a good defense in a decade. The last time their defense was really good was 2010. They won the Super Bowl that year. And they had a decent unit in 2014 when they lost to the Seahawks in the NFC title game famously. But I didn't buy in. And like you said, they've got guys that the names and on paper, everything sounds good, but they've got guys also that aren't playing well. Eric Stokes hasn't had a good start to his second season. He was really good last year. Darnell Savage, I swore at the end of 2020, Savage had such a good start to that, or finish to that season, I should say. And it just hasn't happened for him since then. And then you add in, from the schematic standpoint, like you asked, you've got Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, he's got a nose for the football. He's a playmaker. You guys saw him a few times in Philadelphia, so you guys know a little bit about him at this point. But they don't play those guys close to the line of scrimmage. And you have Jair Alexander, who might be the best corner in football, and you're asking him to play 10 yards off coverage and cover the other team's third best wide receiver. And I know that's not unique to Green Bay. I know a lot of teams don't use their best corner against the other team's best receiver. But when you got Jair Alexander, you absolutely should. So Joe Barry has been a major point of contention And if you look across, you mentioned all those players. They're either every starter on Green Bay's defense is either a first-round pick or a player they've given a significant contract extension to. Their defense should not be this bad if that is the case. And that's where the coaching side of things comes into play. Does the offense play into that? Absolutely. But at some point, like, you have all these dudes, you've got to make some plays on the defensive side of the ball. And outside of Rashawn Gary, they really haven't.
And Jacob, I just want to jump in real quick. First off, that was what you said about Joe Barry's defense is very familiar to us in Washington. We dealt with him for a few years, and we all had the same complaints. But I wanted to kind of skip over to the offensive side of the football a little bit, and I just kind of wanted to question. I know one of the things I mentioned in talking about the Packers earlier before you came on was the fact that if you're going to beat them, you're going to beat them the way the Jets did and dominate their offensive line, because their offensive line can't block anyone. But with that said, I noticed in the games that you all struggle, you all kind of get away from the run a little bit. I mean, you got two guys in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, who's really good running backs, both of them. And the games you won, it seems like they were kind of an emphasis on offense, but the games you've lost, it seems like those two weren't really involved much, and the run game was kind of non-existent. Is that something that you think that has to be, really emphasized for the Packers to be successful?
Yeah, it's a tough spot because, like I said earlier, trying to run the ball and win with defense is a tough way to win in 2022 with the slant towards offense that we have here in the National Football League. Every rule is slanted toward the passing game. So you've got all of that. I think that being said, you mentioned the Chicago game. They ran for almost 200 yards that particular night. They ran the ball really well. The following week was kind of a weird game against Tampa Bay, so they didn't do that. They've been able to do a few different things with running the ball against Tampa, but it was kind of just a weird game that finished off in a weird game. I think that's the best way to describe that. New England, the second half was kind of a barn burner, and they went up and down the field. The hard part for Green Bay is that their best player is their running back, and there's no question about that, I don't think. But that being said, teams are giving looks that are favorable in the passing game, and if the Packers are going to win a championship this year, and I don't think they are, but if they were, they're going to have to be able to pass the ball more effectively. And that's the catch-22, right? So your best player is your running back, and you have to run the ball. But, if you're in a playoff type scenario against the Philadelphia Eagles or, whoever the top team in the NFC is right now, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball. So it's a weird spot for them to be in, but I can tell you that I promise after every single game, when Matt LaFleur says oh, we got to get Aaron Jones more touches, it's like, well, you're the play caller. So maybe call more touches for Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers. We got to get Jones the ball more. It's like, well, you touch the ball on every single play. Figure it out. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, but if you're going to get the ball to those guys, you have to.
Now, the Matt LaFleur thing, and there's so many parallels, or a few parallels. I'm not going to exaggerate, but when it comes to LaFleur, I asked your guy Andy. I had asked him this question about LaFleur just generally, and I maybe you'll understand what I'm saying, but I feel like that he hasn't done enough, and I don't know if he's done enough to really convince. And this is me, my general observations from the outside looking in. I just feel like he hasn't done enough to convince the Green Bay Packers, whether it's the organization or it's the actual fan base, that he is the guy who can get these guys back to the Super Bowl and win. And obviously the regular seasons under LaFleur has been pretty 13-3, I think 3 straight seasons. And then obviously you look at the playoffs and you're 2-3 or something like that in the playoffs. And the losses haven't, they haven't been pretty at all. It hasn't been competitive, or excuse me, let me be clear. The offensive side of the football is really the lacking side in those playoff losses. And that's kind of where my head is. I see that he's doing good in the regular season, but they didn't have those issues with the guy in Mike McCarthy. That was they're winning in the regular season with both of these coaches. So I think that there's something in my head. I feel like there's something there that's missing in Green Bay, and it shows itself in the playoffs. What do you think about Matt LaFleur? What do you think about his relationship with Aaron Rodgers as well? But main topic being Matt LaFleur as the head coach in Green Bay.
Yeah, the relationship thing I think is overblown when it comes to him and Aaron Rodgers. There was always that talk of like, oh, he's young and all this stuff. Like, how is he going to mesh with that? Well, 2 MVPs in a 13-win season in the 1 year that Rodgers wasn't the MVP. I think that there's at least something to that. The problem I think the Packers have is, like we mentioned, there's a talent drain on that side of the ball. Devontae Adams not there. Marcos Valdes-Scantling's not there. Robert Tonyan looks like a shell of his former self. They're not blocking well. A.J. Dillon, you guys mentioned earlier, he has played poorly this year. He looks like he's running in cement. To answer your question specifically about the playoffs and some of that stuff is, number one, that's everything's under a microscope when that happens. And obviously the number one thing that everyone points to is the field goal that he kicked against Tampa Bay in 2020, whatever that was. A lot of different things went wrong in that particular game, but that one, I mean, I would have gone for it. The reality is, like, at the end of the day, the defense would have had to make a stop, and they didn't do that anyways. Last year, to me, is the one that's the most inexcusable because you're playing at home. You have the 1 seed. You have all this stuff. Like, everyone was healthy except for David Bakhtiari. You've got everything that you've needed. And you can't lose a game when your offense with the MVP only scores 10 points. Like, you just have to find a way to do better than that, and they didn't. 2019, LaFleur's first season here. They won a playoff game at home against Seattle, and then they played a San Francisco team that, like, Bill Belichick could have been the name whoever the Packers coach could have been that year. That's Niners that year. Yeah. And they were just so much better than that Packers team was. Like, that's just the reality. Sometimes you play teams that you're not better than in the playoffs, and the Packers have had those issues, especially towards like the end of Mike McCarthy's tenure. They were never the best team. Now, the problem is the last 2 years, I do think they were the best team. I think they were better than Tampa Bay in 2020, and they had them at home, and they still blew it. And last year, obviously, I think very clearly they were better than San Francisco. And if the Rams had to come to Green Bay for an NFC title game, I think the Packers win that game by 2 or 3 scores just because they match up so well with that Rams team. But this is title town. It's not division title town. And eventually at some point, like, going 13-3 or 13-4, like, that's all well and good, but they're going to be asking, where's the next banner? Why does it only say 2010? Why is that the last one, quote unquote, that's up there? What are you doing to fix that? And the Packers haven't done that. And I think some of that, like I said, for this year, they're 3-3. So to win 13 games, they're going to have to go 10-1 down the stretch. They play the Bills and the Eagles. So I think those are 2 more pretty likely losses. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pretty safe bet they're not winning 13 games again this year. LaFleur's a good coach, but he hasn't done his best job this year. I think that's absolutely fair to say.
Just a couple more questions for me on my side. The Vikings, how are you all viewing this Commanders game, whether it's from what you're hearing from the coaching staff or the players, or just from the Packers community altogether? I mean, 5-1. I don't think that as much as I did predict that the Vikings would win the division, I don't think that they're a good 5-1 team right now. I think that they're still lacking in some areas, and for all it's worth, they're still winning. So it kind of puts the pressure on the teams in the other division to keep up. Just keep up until you have an opportunity to play the Vikings. Is this game being looked at as a must win against the Commanders?
Yes. I thought last week's game was a must win because it was the last home game the Packers had for a month. They don't have a home game now until November 13th when they play the Dallas Cowboys, who, that game at the beginning of the season, you kind of looked at as like, oh, Green Bay should be able to handle Dallas. And now Dallas is 4-2. Their 2 losses are to Tampa Bay on opening night and the Eagles, who haven't lost yet. So, I mean, they might be a really formidable football team, and they might have, we're talking about pass rushes. They're certainly towards the top of the list. And they have, in my opinion, the best defensive player in football, not named Aaron Donald and Micah Parsons. How they view the Washington game. I mean, if you watch the Jets game if you watch the Jets game on Sunday, I don't think Green Bay can take anyone for granted. This is Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, I think, said it really well. It was after, I think it was after the blocked punt was returned for a touchdown that made it 17-3. And he said, bad, embarrassing football team. And that's basically how I felt throughout the course of the game. It never felt like against the Jets. Like, that's the thing, is against and the Jets are a better team than they have been in recent years. And Robert Saleh, I think, is a good coach. But they had 110 yards passing. They were 1 for 11 on third. Like, so many things. If you just saw that, you'd be like, oh, Green Bay won by 3 scores. It was at Lambeau, like all that stuff. And the Packers lost by 3 scores. Like, I don't think And I don't think Washington's a particularly good team right now. I don't know if Taylor Heineke is going to make them better than Carson Wentz was. I know he had a relatively solid game last year in Green Bay against the Packers. I think there's some good players in Washington. It's just not clicking for whatever reason. Maybe it's the 5 Royce Newmans that you guys were talking about on the offensive line that's the issue. But I don't think there's any game that the Packers can afford to just look down their schedule and say, like, there are games on there like Buffalo. They play Buffalo next week. And I'm like, okay, that feels like 41-10. Like it just does. But there are games that used to be on the schedule that you're like, okay, they can win and, just whatever, however it looks, just win the game because you should. I don't think there are games like that anymore. And Washington is one of those teams that in past years might be that way. But not only that, Green Bay typically hasn't played. I think the last time Green Bay went to Washington was 2018, where Clay Matthews had a roughing the passer penalty that was tough, to say the very least. I know Geronimo Allison had a big touchdown that day. I don't remember much. Alex Smith was the starting quarterback for Washington.
Yes.
So that's the last time that they've been to Washington.
Before you got here too. Yep.
Yeah, and it's been a long time, but they typically haven't played that well in that building. So you add all that together, and they're not that great of a road team to begin with. So add all that together, I think it should be looked at as a must-win, but I don't think it's one that you can just sit back and say like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable. We're going to beat the Commanders.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into your keys then for the Green Bay Packers against the Commanders. What are some things that you see? First off, it's a two-parter, but what are some of the things that Green Bay has to do in order to get out on top of the Washington Commanders? But also, what is your prediction? Who wins and why?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is that front. I mean, we talked about it at the top here. Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. They asked LaFleur earlier in the week, like, how do you feel about that front? He says it can give you nightmares if you let it. And he's right. And especially true against an offensive line that's really scuffling, that, like, individually, I like a lot of the players Green Bay has on their offensive line, but I don't know what that group's going to look like. And even if they do something like Zach Tom's a rookie, who I think is already better right now than Royce Newman is. Yosh Nijman playing right tackle and sliding Elton Jenkins back into guard would be something that makes this group better. But it'll still be the first time that group has ever played together in a game. Now, if they can block those guys, there are some plays to be had against this Washington secondary. But they haven't made those plays this year either. So, I mean, there was some stat a while ago about how Green Bay was second in the league in explosive plays or something like that. I'm like, that's kind of misleading because, like, their explosive plays, none of them look easy. Like, there is no play action, hard fake to left, roll right. Rodgers winds up and you just see a receiver with nobody within 10 yards of him and he walks in for a touchdown. Like, they haven't had, save for the first game of the season where Christian Watson is streaking down the right side of the field with nobody near him and he drops the ball. Would have had a 75-yard touchdown. But other than that, everything on offense for Green Bay is just so hard. And that makes it even harder when you're facing, again, Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. And Rodgers this year, for all the fanfare, deservedly so, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. No question about that. But he's been bad when he's been under pressure, which most quarterbacks are. But he's also been bad when he's not been under pressure. So there's legitimate questions in my mind, at least, of is he declining and is he maybe not what he once was? And I don't know if that's the case. We've got a long way to go before we figure out if that's going to be the case or not. There's a long way for that. As for, predictions, again, I can't feel confident about anything the Packers are doing. And I especially can't. And like I told you guys before, at a very much smaller level, I played offensive line. So I'm a very big believer that the game starts in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Well, the thing is that, so I think, like you mentioned, Green Bay is going to be able to get after Taylor Heineke in rushing the passer. I think the same is true for Washington to get after Aaron Rodgers in the passing game. The key is going to come down to who can run the ball better, and Green Bay's run defense is atrocious. And I think that Washington's got 3 pretty good backs. One of them is more of a pass catcher, but Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and J.D. McKissick, all of those guys are capable of doing stuff. And if you guys go back and watch the Jets game when they ran 2-back personnel last week, they gashed the Packers in the run game. And Green Bay has really struggled. And I promise you, I know based on the guys I talked to last night, I don't think that you like Scott Turner all that much as an offensive coordinator in Green Bay. I could be wrong.
Let AJ talk about it. He tell you some things.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that Scott Turner probably saw that and said, there might be a thing or two to try. And Washington has the personnel to do that because Antonio Gibson's a good player, underutilized for whatever reason. Maybe you guys know more about that.
We have a dumb offensive coordinator in Scott
Okay.
Tony, that's
Okay.
why.
So that's the answer. Okay. That's fair enough. Absolutely understandable there. Gibson maybe a little underutilized, McKissick pass catcher, and Robinson, who's not just a great story, just a really good football player too. So I think Washington will be able to run the ball more. They're probably more willing to commit to running the ball because of Taylor Heineke's presence. And Heineke ran for 100 yards last year in Green Bay, so he can add to their rushing game as well. I like Washington 14-10. I think it'll be one of those like games that everybody's complaining about from like last Thursday when you guys were playing Chicago. But I don't know how Green Bay scores points. I don't know how you can confidently say that they think they'll hold up in protection and they don't commit to giving the ball to their best player. So add all of that together. I really struggle to see Green Bay coming out with a road win.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is probably going to play more up-tempo this weekend because Washington, if you watch the Thursday game against the Bears, they struggle getting their personnel in and out. They got caught 2 or 3 times in the game with 10 men on the field, 12 men on the field. And as you know, being a Packers fan, Aaron Rodgers loves those type of substitutions. He loves when personnel is trying to switch in. So I think they'll play probably more up tempo this week than they have the rest of that they've shown so far this season.
Jacob, I appreciate you coming through. I appreciate you giving us your time, man. I want to give you the floor just to plug anything and everything that you got going on your side, man. The floor is yours.
Sure. So you could, like I mentioned at the top, you can find me at Packer Report 66. Right, sporadically for them. I have a newborn and a 3-year-old in my house. So trying to find time to
congratulations.
Thank you. Trying to find time to create content about football is harder to do by the day, but we figure it out a little bit. And then I'm the owner over at Game On Wisconsin at Game On WI. You can find, we got something just about every single night there, actually in about 2 minutes. So right after these guys wrap, you can go check Tori Piat and Haley Christine over for the show we call Green and Gorgeous. So that's starting tonight. And we have something every night. So it's a lot of fun.
There you go, big dog. Hey, I appreciate you. The fellas appreciate you. Enjoy your weekend, man. And, hopefully we talk about a Commanders dub, but we'll figure it out.
I hope not, but I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you. You guys have a good
Absolutely.
night.
Stay safe, boss. All right. Here we go. There goes Jacob. Fellas and Welly, and if you're still on that side, man, what's going on? Roger, I see you in the chat. Magic, I seen you talk about Micah Parsons. Yes, I do think that Jack Del Rio would have found a way to not utilize him enough in Micah Parsons. Fellas, let's get out of here with our predictions. Talk about our final score and our MVP of the Commanders game versus the Green Bay Packers. Whoever wants to take the floor first, you got it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dre.
No, I'm waiting for you because I know yours is going to be short. AJ's going to be like 41-0 Packers.
Packers.
Go ahead. Tell us what your son going to do Sunday.
All right. I'm going to go. I have the Packers winning this game 20-17. I think we cover. I think the spreads are like 5.5 right now in favor of the Packers. But I do think Washington covers. But I think the Packers win 20-17 in this game.
MVP.
Do we pick MVP of the winning team or do we pick it of the our team?
I would say winning team. Let's do that.
All right, winning team. It's going to be I'm going with Aaron Jones. If the Packers are going to win, Aaron Jones is going to have a big game.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got distracted for a second. So Elijah Moore has asked for a trade. But the Jets have no plans to trade him. I just got distracted looking at that, so that's all.
He mad that Garrett Wilson getting the targets.
He's definitely gonna get up out of there Sunday night or Monday.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I don't know where he's gonna go. Green Bay would be good for him, honestly.
That's exactly what Ian said in the tweet. The exact same tweet. He said Green Bay was one of the.
I haven't even seen the tweet.
Oh no, I'm tripping. He said he was just targeted once against Green Bay. I thought he said that they were a suitor. Never mind.
Yeah, they could use a guy like him in Green Bay for sure.
Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I'm gonna save AJ for last, bro. Let me go next, Drake. So I'm gonna go. Oh Lord Jesus, I do think that Washington covers. My concern, and it's the reason why I brought this question up, was Aaron Rodgers. It's like every ounce or every single like. I really think that Washington can win this game, but I know better, and I know that Washington finds ways to lose, and I hate the fact that that's the case, but it really is. But also, there's other ways. Like they find new ways to lose, and I think Aaron Rodgers is one of those quarterbacks where they're seeing how Washington's defense performed against the Bears last week, and there was just so many opportunities on that second level on the play action passes and behind the linebackers, and if they can establish a run game, it's going to really be a problem for the Commanders, because I don't trust Cole Holcomb and Jamie Davis in terms of like they're disciplined on those run fakes and stuff like that. Now, obviously, you got to play honest, but it's like there's still a mixture. Like you can't commit too hard, and they're running into the line, they're running into the wash, and that kind of concerns me for a quarterback who is really good on play action. And that's I say all that to say I think that Green Bay ultimately finds a way to win with their backs against the wall, and I'm gonna go. I guess I'll go 24-20. I'll put the Commanders slightly under the league average and just above their league average in points scored, but 24-20. The Green Bay Packers wins the game. AJ, where you at?
Yeah, I think Washington has some early success against Aaron Rodgers. Getting to the quarterback. And I feel as though the short game will work. When I say short game, I'm more so talking about more dinking and dunking to the flats. I think J.D. McKissic gets involved in the passing game a bit more. Defensively for Washington, I don't see them stopping Aaron Rodgers at all, even though they haven't been the most efficient with their offense. I just feel as though Aaron does a great job of reading defenses, has a quick release. Even though some of his guys may not know everywhere that they need to be on the field, he still has that veteran that's lined up in the slot, Randall Cobb, that can easily maneuver against somebody like a Wild Goose. Wild Goose is such a random ass last name, but yeah.
I say the same thing, bro.
Especially for a black man. What black man named Wild Goose?
Weird.
I hate saying Wild Goose. It just sounds so ridiculous. It feels like I made up like a creative player name, like. But no disrespect to his family and their legacy.
He must be Indian.
But yeah.
That's actually a valid point. That's a good way to go down. You must be Indian. That's it.
But yeah, overall, I just feel as though Aaron Rodgers can definitely win those matchups with him and Randall Cobb. They have the rapport with one another. I think it'll make for a long day for the secondary. I really don't even want to talk about Taylor Heinicke. Because at the end of the day, I don't see him making any plays downfield. I actually see him making some turnovers. I mean, surprisingly, we haven't seen as much turnovers from Carson Wentz, but I feel that Taylor will have some turnovers, whether it be strip sack, fumbles. Like I said, Gary is playing out of his mind right now. I think that they'll probably have him go against Lucas more so than Leno. Either way, he's a disruptive pass rusher. A lot of people don't know about. He'll make some plays come Sunday, but I don't see Washington winning this game. Like I said earlier, I don't see them winning any game for the rest of the year besides Houston. I'm gonna go with 31-13. Green Bay Packers. And the MVP of the game will be Aaron Rodgers and Rashawn Gary.
Yeah, my bad. I left out the MVP part. I'm going with Aaron Jones. I really think if they win, that's going to be it. Or if I want to provide some versatility, I'll go Romeo Doubs. He has a little athleticism to him that I like, but I also think that they can take advantage of that man Kendall Fuller on the outside a few times. So I really like Romeo Doubs just from a general perspective, but think that's probably can be the guy that can have himself a day against the Commanders secondary. Dang, we're 0-for-3 over here. Or 0-1, I guess, for week 7. No Commanders wins, and we'll figure things out Sunday afternoon and see what we got going on. But that's gonna wrap it up for everybody here fellas, ladies, everybody that's checking in. The fellas will be back post game on the Packers, talking about possibly a dub, hopefully a dub, and then talking about how Taylor Heineke threw for 450 yards on them boys, and AJ gotta talk about it with
AJ
all of us.
Be missing on the show next week. He ain't coming on next week.
I'm gonna take a day off.
Good luck with that.
But yeah,
if that happens, I'm gonna give y'all 1,000 each.
Oh shit, let's go. Let's go, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I'm about to go to the stadium. I'm about to post up where the players park. Tell them, hey, I need 450 from you today. You don't have to have it the rest of your career, just today. But all right, so yeah, I'm back tomorrow. Commanders Morning Show. Fellas be back Sunday afternoon, post game, all that good stuff, man. Y'all take it easy, enjoy y'all day, enjoy y'all weekend, all that good stuff. We out of here. Peace.